Have you ever sat there staring at your phone, wondering if your kids will ever call you? Just because they want to, not because they need something? You might have even typed a message, hovered your thumb over send, then deleted it. Or worse, you hit block, thinking maybe that'll wake them up. Maybe that'll make them realize what they're doing. But here's the truth. That ache you feel, that silence in the room, it's not just about your kids. It's about your energy, your dignity, your peace. And today, we're not going to talk about how to make them change. We're going to talk about how you take back your power, gracefully and quietly, without blocking, without begging, without trying to explain yourself again. Because if you're over 60 and still giving your best energy to people who don't value it, I've got something important to say to you today. It's time to stop. Now, I'm not saying stop loving your kids. That love, that deep, unconditional love, is part of who you are. It's your strength. But there's a difference between love and sacrificing your well-being just to prove it. Especially when they don't even seem to notice. So let's begin with a shift. Not in them. In you. Sometimes the most powerful move you'll ever make is no move at all. Let that sink in. We're trained to think action means strength. You speak up, you defend yourself, you fight for what's right. But there's a quiet kind of strength that hits deeper. The kind that comes from not reacting at all. No chasing, no arguing, no dramatic exits. Just peace. You might be thinking, but if I don't say something, won't they think I don't care? I hear you. That fear is real. But here's what's even more real. Every time you try to explain yourself to someone who's already made up their mind, you shrink a little more. You don't need to shrink anymore. Right now, you might be carrying the weight of guilt. Maybe I wasn't a good enough mom. Or maybe I wasn't the kind of dad they needed. You've replayed every conversation in your mind, wondering if you said something wrong, if you could have done more. But what if I told you the most healing thing you could do for both of you is to step back in silence? Because silence doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're stepping out of the chaos. You're removing yourself from a game where the rules keep changing. It's not about being passive. It's about choosing peace over performance. Imagine this. You walk into a store you've visited for years. You know every corner, every aisle. One day you go back and it's just closed. No sign, no sale, no announcement. Just gone. You find yourself walking by again and again, wondering what happened. That's how silence works. It sticks. Blocking someone might feel satisfying in the moment, but it gives them an answer. It says, I'm hurt. I'm angry. And believe it or not, that gives them relief. It shows them they still matter enough to get a reaction out of you. But when you don't block, don't message, don't respond, you just move on, that's when the questions begin. That's when they look at the empty space and start to feel the weight of their choices. You might be thinking, but I can't just disappear. I still want them to come back. And that's okay. It's human to want reconciliation. But here's the difference. You don't beg for it. You create space for it. Real connection never comes from chasing. It comes from two people who choose each other freely. And begging? Begging tells someone, you're worth more than me. It puts your value in their hands. And my dear friend, you are worth more than that. Let me ask you something. Have your words changed them before? You've asked. You've pleaded. You've cried. You've explained your side. Has it worked? Because if words were going to wake them up, they would have by now. That's why silence is your strength. You see, absence teaches the lessons your presence never could. When you stop showing up, when you stop responding to those half-hearted texts, or empty checking-in calls. It sends a message without ever raising your voice. I'm no longer available for crumbs. That doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you stop letting them use your love without returning it. Right now, they might not feel your absence. They might still assume you'll pick up the phone. They might expect you to send a holiday message or ask how they're doing. But when that message never comes, when the call isn't returned, when there's just silence, that's when they notice. That's when they start to ask questions. And that's where your power lies. You don't need to block them. You don't need to remove them from your life dramatically. You just need to become unreachable, not in a spiteful way, not to punish them, but because your peace no longer lives where it once did. Think of it like this. You've moved houses. The old address still exists, but you don't live there anymore. You've taken your energy, your wisdom, your warmth, and placed it somewhere safer, somewhere it's valued, even if it's just with yourself for now. Because the moment you stop trying to be available for people who keep letting you down, that's the moment you start building a life that no longer depends on their approval. And when you do that, something shifts. They start to wonder, why isn't she responding? Why doesn't he seem to care? Did they move on? And that mystery, that quiet unknown, is more powerful than any long message you could ever send. The truth is, people only start to value what they can no longer access. So if you're feeling invisible in your own family, don't raise your voice. Raise your standards. That doesn't mean shutting your heart. It means protecting it. And here's the beauty of it all. The more you focus on your peace, your healing, your joy, the less power they have over you. You stop being the one who's always there. You become the one they wonder about, the one they miss, the one they can't reach. And the longer they sit in that space, the more they feel it. Because silence doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in over time. And when it does, it speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. Especially not the people who never paused to understand you in the first place. You just owe yourself this: peace, space, and the freedom to live without proving your worth to anyone. You might be surprised how powerful it is when someone looks for you and can't find you. That's when it starts. They scroll through old text threads, hoping to see a sign that you're still there. They post something vague on social media, just to see if you'll like it or respond. They test the waters with a short, "Hey, how've you been?" hoping it reels you back in. But you don't bite. You've done that before. You've fallen for those little lifelines, thinking they meant something. A breadcrumb here, a little attention there. Only to be pulled right back into confusion, into hurt, into wondering if, maybe, just maybe, this time things would be different. But now you are different. Because now you understand that people don't miss you when you cry. They miss you when they can't reach you. You see, the moment you stop being predictable is the moment you take back control. And this might be the hardest part, because you were raised to be kind, to be available, to be there when needed. But there's a difference between being kind and being walked over, between being loving and being taken for granted. Predictability feels safe, yes, but it also becomes a pattern that people learn how to manipulate. They know what to expect from you. They know that no matter how long they disappear, you'll still pick up. They know you'll answer the door, reply to the message, send the holiday card, ask how they're doing. But when you stop playing that role, when you do the one thing they never saw coming, nothing. They're left with a blank space, an empty stage, and their minds start to spin. Why isn't she reaching out? Why doesn't he care anymore? Did I push them too far? And that silence, that space, that becomes your strength. Because real power isn't in blocking them. It's in becoming unreachable. Not by cutting them out, but by no longer making yourself emotionally available for their convenience. You can still love someone deeply and love them from a distance. You can still wish them well without opening the door again and again just to be ignored. And this doesn't just protect you. It teaches them, not with lectures or guilt, but with absence. Because people don't learn from being told. They learn when they feel the consequences of their actions. Let's be honest, if they cared when you cried, you wouldn't be here right now. If they changed when you explained, you'd already feel respected. If they understood your pain, they'd have made an effort to show up differently. So stop waiting for them to get it. Let them feel what it's like to live without you. Let them do the wondering. Let them realize that silence means they no longer have access to what they once took for granted. And don't confuse this with revenge. This isn't about punishing anyone. This is about healing. About returning your energy to where it belongs. You. Because the longer you stay silent, the more powerful you become. The longer you resist that urge to just check in, the more they feel your absence. The more you stop reacting, the more they question what they had and what they lost. And I know what you might be thinking, but what if they move on and forget about me completely? Let me be clear. If someone can forget you just because you stopped chasing them, they were never truly connected to begin with. That wasn't love. That was convenience. You're not someone to be remembered only when it's easy. You're someone to be valued all the time, or not at all. Let them feel that. Because real regret doesn't happen when you block someone. It happens when they realize they can't reach you anymore, and they don't know why. When their messages sit unread. When their go-to source of comfort has gone quiet. When they no longer know if you care, or if you've moved on completely. That's what haunts them. And while they're living in that silence, you're finally breathing again. You wake up and don't check your phone right away. You walk outside and feel the air on your face instead of carrying the weight of what if on your shoulders. You start remembering who you were before all the stress and confusion. You take up a hobby. You call a friend. You laugh a little louder. Sleep a little deeper. Because now your energy is back where it belongs. With you. And that, my friend, is when the shift happens. That's when you start living your life without looking over your shoulder, waiting for someone to notice you're missing. Because the truth is, people who really love you, they don't need reminders. They don't need you to post a sad message or explain why you're hurt. They feel it. They care even when you're silent. They check in because they want to, not because they're trying to keep you on a leash. But the ones who only reach out when they sense you're slipping away? The ones who only chase you when they feel their control fading? Let them go. Let them sit with their choices. Let them face the silence they created. Because you're not the person you were before. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. You don't need to keep explaining or asking or chasing. You've grown beyond that. And maybe they will realize what they lost. Maybe one day they'll come around with a clearer heart and better intentions. But by then, you'll be different. Not colder, not cruel, just stronger, calmer, at peace. Because you didn't become unreachable to hurt anyone. You became unreachable because you finally understood this one truth. Your love is a gift. And if someone treats it like a guarantee instead of an honor, they don't deserve the front row seat anymore. So no, you don't block. You don't beg. You don't chase. You become unavailable. And trust me, that silence, it will echo louder than any words you've ever spoken. The beautiful thing about this shift is that once it starts, Once you begin living for yourself instead of waiting on someone else's approval, you'll start to notice how much lighter your heart feels. The worry softens. The confusion fades. The second guessing, it quiets down. Because what once felt like rejection now feels like redirection. And here's the truth you've needed to hear for a long time. You were never meant to carry all of this alone. You were never meant to keep trying to hold a family together by the sheer force of your love while others drift further and further away. You were never meant to be anyone's emotional doormat, especially not your children's. Love is a gift, but it's not a blank check. If they didn't say thank you, if they didn't return your kindness, if they only showed up when it was convenient or when they needed something, then silence is not only allowed, it's necessary. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. Now I want to talk to the part of you that still feels guilty. The part that says, but I'm the parent. I'm supposed to keep reaching out. That's what love does. Yes, love reaches. Love tries. But love also knows when to stop trying. When the door isn't opening anymore. When the other person has stopped knocking. You've tried. Probably more than you even should have. You've reached out, forgiven, explained, invited, prayed. You've swallowed your pride. You've stayed silent during arguments just to keep the peace. And now it's time they do some of the reaching. Not because you're punishing them, but because relationships should go both ways. And if they don't, that's not love. That's imbalance. That's dependency. That's draining. There's something else we need to talk about: closure. So many people your age carry the weight of unfinished conversations. Things that were never said. Questions left hanging. You might be hoping that one day your kids will sit across from you, look you in the eye, and finally explain why they've pulled away. You want that clean ending, that understanding, that moment of truth. But let me say this gently: you don't need it. Closure is not something you wait for. It's something you create. You don't need a long conversation or an apology or a reason that makes sense. You can create peace for yourself right here, right now, by accepting what you cannot change and choosing to move forward anyway. When someone hurts you and walks away without a word, it's not your job to chase them down and force clarity. It's not your job to hand them a mirror and beg them to look into it. Your job is to protect your heart. Your job is to build a life that's no longer shaped by who walked away. And when they do come back, if they ever do, it won't be because you chased. It won't be because you made a scene. It'll be because they started to feel what you felt. And if that day comes, you'll be standing in a whole new kind of strength. Because time has a funny way of showing people the truth. Time reveals what was real and what was temporary. It sharpens regrets and softens bitterness. And the longer they go without hearing from you, the louder that silence becomes. It's like a radio that's always been playing in the background. You don't really notice it until it suddenly goes quiet. Then the room feels empty. And that emptiness lingers. That's what your absence does. It becomes the space where their guilt echoes. And while they're sitting in that silence, wondering, replaying, regretting, you're growing. Quietly. Beautifully. You're reconnecting with the parts of yourself you had to put on hold. You're planting new habits, finding peace in your routines. Maybe even laughing again without that heavy cloud following you around. Because here's the most important part of all of this. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to live in peace. You are allowed to stop answering every message, every call, every guilt trip. You are allowed to want joy in the years ahead. Joy that isn't based on who shows up or who doesn't. And if today is the day you finally choose that, then I'm proud of you. Because you didn't get here by accident. You got here by surviving things most people don't even talk about. You got here by loving deeply, giving generously, and showing up for people who didn't always show up for you. You deserve more than scraps of attention. You deserve more than forced conversations. You deserve to be valued without having to fight for it. And no matter what anyone says, even your own mind on the hard days, your silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the wisdom that comes with age. The kind that says, I don't need to explain myself anymore. The kind that says, if they want me in their life, they know where to find me. The kind that says, I can love someone and still let them go. Now, before we close, let me leave you with this. You are not alone. So many people in your shoes feel this ache, this longing, this quiet heartbreak that doesn't make the headlines, but it's real. And it's deep. But so is your strength. And right now, that strength is calling you back home. Not to the past, not to the pain, but to yourself. Back to the calm. Back to the peace. Back to the quiet power of choosing yourself again and again. So if this spoke to you, if any part of this made you feel seen or understood, or simply reminded you that you matter, I want you to take one more small step. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you've learned. Tell us where you are in your journey. You never know who might read your words and feel just a little less alone. And if you found this message helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and help us grow this community of strong, wise, resilient people. This channel, Strong Elderly Life, is here for you, always. Here's to quiet strength. Here's to letting go without bitterness. Here's to living your best years with more peace, more dignity, and more joy than ever before. You don't owe anyone your energy. You owe it to yourself. And starting today, that's exactly where it's going.